Okay, y'all, today we're going to be talking about a run-in with the Colombian police that I myself did not have, but I was with a friend and he had it, and it ended up being a not a total disaster, but it ended up being a lot more serious. And I want to highlight how we would look at things in the United States versus how the kind of third world gesture courts and this, like when you think, okay, so as someone who's gone to Buenos Aires before and lived there, like Buenos Aires is kind of like third world light is what I've said, and Argentina it's third world, but it's better than what you would think in like the third world, right? Because when we have the third world, we think of like giant differences between countries, right? Like you have African third world, then you have like South American third world, and other sorts of third world countries, right? Where like development is just like not going to be there, right? The difference between Argentina and Colombia is not extreme, but you kind of notice some things. And when it comes to the police, I'm sure it's a little bit better in Argentina, but still, this kind of highlighted some things to me that was really rough about Colombia specifically. So anyway, my friend and I are in this group. We had ended up playing paddle. Paddle's like this sport where you have like it's kind of like a mix of like tennis, paddle tennis, and like racquetball. Anyway, after that, we all go out to eat for lunch. It's not a sport that like I totally love, but it was fun to meet some other Americans, and we kind of just all vibed, and it was a great way to like get a little bit of exercise, right? So we go to lunch. My friend makes eye contact with this girl, right? We're in this place where I would say it's kind of like the equivalent of like what would be like a hotel in a parking lot, but it's like a fancy hotel. But there's like a carnice, a butcher shop over here, and then maybe a few stores right here, and then there's this like kind of nice restaurant where we're sitting and dining, right? So anyway, so this is all going to be a little bit relevant. I'll get to the police part after this, but you kind of have to hear this to kind of give some context for you to understand. So my friend orders a meal a certain way. We went there last week, and one of the girlfriends of the guys that we're with got a specific meal. He said he wanted it this time. They brought him the food. It was not right whatsoever, so he said, can you please make it again, right? Well, that was 30 minutes. At that point, we had already, the four of us had already eaten, and so he still hadn't even had his food by the time we finished, right? So they bring it the second time, and the second time they bring it, they don't get it quite right. It's maybe like 75% right or something. And what he says, my Spanish is not amazing. His Spanish is much better than mine. But he said, like, you know what? It's fine as it is. It's not right. I'm just going to eat it, and I would rather eat it than wait another 30 minutes. And he said that. Now, this girl that was like looking at us from maybe 2 tables away, there's almost no way I could imagine that she could have possibly heard that comment, right? But this is going to be important later because as she's leaving, she was an attractive young lady. She was sitting by herself. I guess girls go out to cafes by themselves and eat at cafes. It's not something like a dude would generally do, at least someone like myself would do, but that's what they do here sometimes. So anyway, she was attractive. And as she's getting up to leave, and we and I had looked over at her, and she kind of had this like total resting bitch face, right? But I mean, I had resting dick face, right? Like people have looked at me multiple times and said, like, before I met you, I thought you were just gonna be a complete and total fucking asshole because you have total resting bitch face. And I was like, look, dude, I'm a cool dude, but yeah, I guess I do. Some people just have those faces that you look at and you're like, man, this guy's gonna be a total fucking dick. And then you can be wrong sometimes. A lot of the time, you're probably gonna be right, but once in a while, you do get surprised, and it's kind of like, oh shit, this dude's really cool, right? So anyway, this chick had total resting bitch face, and as she walks past us on our table, my friend decides to go up to her and just like try to mac on her or whatever, but like in a respectful way. I've known this guy for a while. He's not gonna ever do it in like a way like, yo, what's up, bitch? How's it going? It's not gonna be like, he's gonna be like, hey, how's your day going? It's like some kind of like form of that where it's gonna be nice. He's gonna try to like weave and work his way into it, like the smooth guy that he is. So anyway, I'm watching this all. He goes up to her. She's right by her motorcycle in the motorcycle part of the parking lot, which is pretty close to the thing. So I can kind of see most of this. And the two of them start talking, and it looks like it's actually going like kind of well to me because they're not like moving around too much because he's been talking to her, and this goes on for like 5 or 10 minutes or something where they're both standing there. I was like, wow, this guy must really be making some progress here. She must really like him, right? But anyway, we start figuring out something's kind of wrong here because they're not screaming or yelling at each other, but eventually this ends and they depart from each other. But when he comes back to us at our table and starts like finally eating his food, the chick goes up to a security officer and starts pointing at our table and looking very aggressively with the security guard and saying something in like a very frantic manner. And we're kind of just looking like, what the heck happened over there? And so he starts explaining like, look, I don't even know what that was. That was really, really bad, and it went really poorly. Anyway, she starts bringing the security guard over like the giant, strip mall looking thing to us. And the security guard asks the guy, my friend, to get up and start talking to them, right? Now, luckily, he's the one who can speak Spanish. But as he's trying to explain himself to the security officer, she's, like, cutting him off a lot, And rather than, and he seems, like, amenable to my friend. Like my friend is being calm. He's not yelling or screaming or doing anything weird, right? But she's kind of, like, looking, like totally hateful and, like, cutting him off a lot while he's trying to speak. And he's trying to just give his side of the story to the security officer. And so Eventually what he starts saying, and I can't understand a whole lot of Spanish, but I know that my friend said like, look, can you please separate me and her so that you can like talk to me one-on-one, because the one security officer seemed to be at least like taking his side of the story and like just trying to get it, while the chick was like kind of just trying to detract anything that he could like say, right? So then eventually a second security guard comes over, and the guy's like shorter and fatter, and immediately based on the body language, he gets behind the security officer, right? So it's like the girl, the security guard, and then my friend, and then the security guard is behind, the second security guard is behind this guy, but immediately you can kind of tell by the way that he's like looking at my friend. And based on what she's saying, that he's like already siding with the girl, which is like kind of bullshit, because he doesn't know what the hell went on here. The only like of the two officers, one of them seemed semi reasonable. The other one just seemed like he was like totally choosing like the girl just because she's like hot or something. So eventually, my friend said like, "Can you please separate us so that I can give you my side of the story straight?" And now I didn't hear that this had happened, right? But eventually, after the event had happened, my friend says, what they told me was, no, we're just going to stand like this, and she's going to be right here, and you're going to have to give us our side of the story. And my friend was like, fucking what, right? Like in the United States, what we have usually is you don't keep like an aggressive party who's like getting nasty with someone next to the person while they're trying to give their side of the story. You would absolutely separate them so that you can at least give both sides of the story if there's something that's actually going on, right? And of course the police hadn't shown up at this point, but the two of them were still right here talking to the security guards, and it just looked like it was like completely ineffective whatever was going on. So after they started initially talking, maybe 15 or 20 minutes later, the police show up like on their motorcycle, because they don't have cop cars here usually. It's just like the motorcycles, just like it was in Argentina. And the police start talking to him and the girl. And this is where it gets wild. I can't remember the exact order of events, but the police started talking, or rather, the police started showing up maybe like 4 or 5 minutes after the security guard started talking to them with us in the restaurant after the girl started pointing at us, right? For that kind of response time in Colombia, that's insane. I've heard of stories about like the police didn't show up for an hour or like, a long time. And we complain about like police response time in the United States, right? But for them here, that's like unheard of for it to be that fast. Now, little did I know, across the street on the other side of the hotel was actually like this little trailer with a few police motorcycles. So that was just really poor luck to be located right there without our knowledge. But them even call the police in the first place is kind of outrageous. And this is all weird to me because I'm like, didn't they just start like talking to each other? And she just looked like she went off on him if anything had happened, right? But anyway, the police were there for a very long time. This probably took like an hour, maybe a little more, for my friend to finally like get let go of. And he said some very important things, right? So I know I'm doing this out of order, but what had actually happened is the second that he went up to her, she said some comment about like, rather than like, I think my friend introduced himself very quickly, and she said something about like, oh man, you fucking white people and gringos think you can just come up to us and treat us any fucking way you want. I heard your comment that you said to the service girl about 30 minutes, or she said something like she said something like that she had known. And what my friend did was extremely unintelligent, unfortunately. So he did himself no favors by this. He could have like de-escalated this and left a million times, but he went, oh yeah, well fuck you too then, like basically is what he said, right? In Spanish they started exchanging insults over and over and over again, right? And so at this point, at some point the girl had actually said like, you fucking asshole, I'm gonna punch you. And so rather than, and again, they'd exchanged insults multiple times, and when she said this, my friend didn't fucking think like, oh, maybe I should leave at this point, like, which is really stupid on his part. And I would never have done that because I'm not someone who's ever going to like escalate like that, with someone that I don't know, I mean, it's a third world country, like, you don't know if they have like a fucking gun or like, I guess she wasn't really wearing anything in that sense, but you don't know who has like knives and shit, like, it's fucking anarchy out here. Sometimes in the United States you have to be worried, right? Like, over here, you think that people are really worried about like, oh my god, I might get caught with a weapon? Fuck no. So anyway, what the girl was trying to do was say like, look, this guy's harassing me. He's been verbally insulting me, and my friend never said to the police that, and this was dumb, but he never said to the police that she was threatening to punch him, which he should have said. But basically what had happened, eventually when the police started getting involved, my friend basically summarized it as this: because she was a Colombian citizen and she was a Colombian, they would not let him go until the Colombian citizen had left, and the police kept saying that, like, look, you cannot leave until the Colombian citizen leaves and is like at peace or satisfied, and some of these fucking chicks, I think a lot of Argentinian chicks can be kind of, just like a lot of Argentinian men, but I think it's way worse over here in Colombia. Like the stories I've heard and this kind of behavior that I saw was pretty evident that like shit can be here just absolutely off the rocker here, you know. Anyway, this is where like now I'm gonna talk about like the little police part about like why it's so fucking bad here. They wouldn't let him leave because he was a foreigner and she was the Colombian, right? And also I didn't think it helped that she was a girl. And if she starts saying like harassment, like the Colombian authorities tend to be very like sympathetic towards those kind of causes, especially if you like you're already on two strikes. If you're a foreigner and you're like having a problem with a Colombian and it's a girl and she's saying you're harassing her, this is looking really bad. And unfortunately the courts here and the way the law works here is it sounds like women get believed just like almost like this, you know. So if a Colombian is having a problem with like a foreigner, you really don't want to get involved like with like the law with that, right? So anyway, all this is to say the police said they had 3 witnesses. Now, maybe they did, but I know for a fact when I was looking at this, there was not a crowd gathering around. There was not a bunch of people looking at this. People were just passing by. Again, my vantage point wasn't amazing, so maybe some people were hiding in this like kind of off part where the bushes were. But they said they had 3 witnesses. Now, what is a witness? Can a security guard be a witness who said they saw it? Or, you know, what even is a witness? Can it be someone who heard about it and said, like, oh, I heard about that, and that's a witness? Like, you don't fucking know. But basically, this is where this is like the most fucked up part of this. The police said to him, like, look, based on what this chick said, and you've been, you know, allegedly harassing her, we're gonna have to subpoena you. You're gonna have to show up before a court. Like, sorry, that's how it is here. And this is over alleged harassment. Now, of course, he was fucking having a verbal war with her, which is not fucking smart in a foreign country. Like, you don't fucking do that, retard. But over a verbal pissing match, you're gonna have to go to court and show up and possibly even be like deported based on if that goes poorly or not. And you don't know what these courts are like. In the United States, we at least have some semblance of like a court being okay and somewhat fair, but like over here it could just be like, oh, he's a foreigner, get him the fuck out. You just don't know what this fucking shit over here, right? So anyway, eventually what had happened is she finally left after a while, and my friend had was allowed to go, but he did have to give them his ID, and you don't really know what that is. Like in this system, if you give the police your ID and they tell you that you don't have to go to court, do you still have to go to court? Do they do backhanded shit behind your back and make you and put in something so you have to be a subpoena anyway? Like, you don't fucking know how the system works here, right? So anyway, my friend did himself no fucking favors. He could have absolutely had an off ramp multiple times before this stupid shit had happened. And to me, it didn't even look like they were arguing. That was the funniest part. But basically, if there's a crazy batshit chick here, yes, it can be really bad in the United States when chicks start going to the court and lets believe all women and all this horse shit, right? But this chick could have just absolutely like devastated this dude and be like, "Yep, you're getting deported. Get the fuck out," right? Like if it had gotten to that level where like I don't know why it got diffused when it did. But to have if you start kicking beehives and having like pissing matches verbally with someone in a language that you don't really know, in a culture that you don't really know, in a part of the world that you're a foreigner in, and where a court system obviously is super corrupt, you don't know what's gonna fucking happen here. Like you just don't. Lesson 1, you don't do that shit, obviously, right? Like I would never do that. I know better than that. I can't believe my friend even did that because I thought I knew better than that. But 2, yeah, don't ever allow the police to like try to get involved here, like especially in Colombia, Argentina. It was a little bit better. There's like police everywhere kind of stationed around the city, in terms of like they're just like, sitting on their posts, and yeah, there's some female police over here. I've noticed that the police are a lot more women, and it's kind of almost like, they're trying to look pretty or like very attractive rather than actually being like police, so it's kind of funny in that respect because there's so many more women police here than I saw in Argentina. But either way, when it comes to these kind of foreigner courts and all this shit, you don't really want to get involved. So do everything you can to get out of those sorts of situations. And my friend, he's still here, thankfully, but it almost went fucking nuclear. I mean, he was there for a while. They were talking for at least like an hour. It was outrageous that it took that long to defuse that. So lesson 1, don't escalate things with fucking people you don't know in a place where they have home field advantage and you're the away team. 2, don't get into fucking verbal pissing contests with anybody for that matter. You don't know who has weapons. You don't know who has what, or who knows somebody else who can do things to you. And 3rd, under no circumstances, try to get out of there before the police ever get there if you can, and just de-escalate. Try to just remember you're a guest, and they will treat you as a fucking guest for sure. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about what your situation is. They don't give a fuck if you're trying to be calm and rational. If someone else is being outrageous and stirring up a fucking storm of shit, apparently their emotions are so valid that they'll take their side. And the police officers and then the people will not look at who's more calm, and they won't separate you either. What the fuck is that shit, So I don't know. There was a lot of weird shit that went on with this. Luckily, my friend, it sounds like everything's kind of worked out, but it could have gone nuclear, and it almost did go nuclear by hitting. And he chose to hit the nuclear button. Unfortunately, he started like, no, I'm gonna keep fucking. I'm gonna be right. I'm gonna be right. Like you have to think in life. why the fuck would you want to win this battle? There's nothing to gain by winning a verbal pissing contest. Fuck you, fuck your mother, go fuck yourself. That sort of shit is like, okay, well, I got the last laugh. Now what? You know, it's like you achieve nothing. There's nothing that could have been achieved there. Nothing tangible is won other than you feeling better about yourself. You know, like, yeah, that's right, I did it. Fuck that shit, man. And you gotta use your fucking head. If you're someone, now for me in that situation, I have no problem just stepping away and being like, all right, whatever. You want to call me a bitch? I don't give a fuck. Go fuck yourself. You can do your thing. I'm out of here. You know. If you're someone who has this kind of like internal maybe problem where you can't think of things through very clearly in the moment, maybe you get like really fogged, like with like anger, whatever it is, right? You're just quick to emotion and quick like that. You have to find a way to be able to center yourself and back away from a situation and look, okay, what's the big picture here? Am I going to be doing so? If I do something really stupid right now, what are the outcomes, right? If I start getting to a verbal pissing match with a woman in a foreign country where she has home field advantage and they're probably going to take her side because she's Colombian, rather than looking at the situation rationally, because it's us versus them, especially in Colombia. I've noticed that it's much more us versus them in Colombia than it was in Argentina. Then you need to find a way to, my point is, you need to find a way to be able to step back and look at, evaluate your options in the moment. You need a second to think. Absolutely. That is far more important than just being quick to action and being like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, you know, and trying to draw out the F-bomb, right? Again, this is not a problem for me. I'm just trying to emphasize it to you so that if you do have that problem, you can kind of learn from this, from my friend's fault here, and maybe work it out better for you, because you have to remember there's always something bigger at play normally. And if you're trying, and if you're someone who's quick to anger, yeah, you probably do know someone, and maybe you aren't like this personally, but you probably do know someone like this who's like quick to anger and like just will start a verbal pissing contest and escalate things for no fucking reason, just because they want to feel like they're right or they're like strong in the moment, you know? Anyway, the Colombian police do things differently here. Obviously, there's, like I've said, they're a lot more. They take fucking forever to respond, except for when they're across the street, which is kind of hilarious. There's a lot of women police walking around, and they're all kind of like, 8 inches shorter than me, and they're all cute looking and they're very petite. But it's not like if there's really a dude who's angry, these women police aren't really going to stop them, right? Like, I feel like I could take on a few of them myself if it really came down to it, because they're just not that big of people, And when you have a guy who's like probably, even 5'10" and he's really in shape, like 3 girls trying to stop that is, I don't know, man, unless they have like weapons or like mace or something. And even then it's like, the physicality between men and women, and I can go on that. I'll probably do that at some separate time, but I think people have covered that so much at this point where it's just like it's such an obvious thing, that like and anyway, the women police here are more concerned with being attractive, I think, than actually being police. And if you want to cancel from that, I welcome you to do it. Anyway, there you have it. Don't get into fucking fights in foreign countries where you do not have home field advantage and you're a guest, especially if you plan on living here for multiple months at a time like my friend did. What a horrible short-term decision that was in the moment to even do that. And he never thought about de-escalating, which is really kind of like a red flag in someone, I don't know why he would have done that, but like I'm not someone who could ever I can't empathize with that, really, to be honest. Like, when you're sitting in something and someone starts, getting all like, "Ah, go fuck yourself, you stupid foreigner." It's like you just look at that and go like, well, this person has such a small understanding of the world, and the world's a huge place. Their understanding is so microscopic and like tiny that like, why even bother wasting my time with this person? There's more important things in life than trying to correct someone who has no perception of like the world. So it worked out for my friend, but not by a whole lot. He was there for a long time, and it looked like he was even gonna have to be subpoenaed, which is crazy that a girl can go up to him and have 3 fucking witnesses, whoever those people were, and whatever you can define as a witness. Whether it was someone that just heard about it by word of mouth or fucking actually, physically saw it, and said that, like, yeah, he's going to have to be subpoenaed and he's going to have to go to court, which is fucking insane, So, again, don't mess with the authorities in these third world countries, man. Get out of situations before you even see that sort of shit going on, So, anyway, thanks for stopping by. That's my friend's crazy Colombian police story. I don't know why he didn't escalate, but if you start doing shit like that, you can find yourself in a real shithole real fast. In these countries where, don't forget, the police are corrupt. The country itself is not like a real functioning place a lot of the time. Like, a lot of their economy is kind of like, let's pretend to have an economy rather than a real economy, right? Whenever I've met a few Colombian people in the United States, and they said like, oh, dude, the economy in Colombia is fucking dog shit. And it's like, well, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. It's a highly socialistic society. It's more about who you know. It's like us versus them, Oh, I know this person, therefore he's right. Like once the girlfriend of my friend started stepping in, apparently, that started diffusing it, because she's a Colombian, and she started saying like, oh yeah, I know my friend, and he's a good person. And oh my God, how did I forget this part? The girl who's a Colombian of like girlfriend of one of the guys that we know, speaks Spanish, and she speaks to my friend quite often, and they know each other reasonably well. They've known each other for a while, and rather than immediately take my friend's side and be like, "Look, I know his character. I know it's not something he would ever do," and show that kind of loyalty, she actually questioned it when she said, "Like, well, what if she went up to what if he went up to the girl and was being rude?" And it's like, "Excuse me, you've known this person for fucking months at a time, and you speak to him in Spanish all the time. And you two are like not maybe best friends, but you know each other quite well. And you talk about each other's relationships a lot, and you're gonna immediately take sides with the girl who might have had a problem and maybe might be a fucking psycho. Like, are you serious?" That was another thing that was a huge red flag. Is like, I don't. It's probably not just like Colombia in general, but I think a lot of like Latinas and Latinos have like in-group preference where it's like, it's like the police in the United States. Well, it's like, look, the cop said this. You know, another cop shows up. The cop immediately believes the cop rather than thinking like sometimes the cop could be wrong or have gotten something wrong. You know, and that's the fucked up thing. Nobody wants to look up in the world at the situation and be like, look, let's take away whoever is, who. Let's take away our alliances and all this shit. Let's just look at what happened and try to be as rational as we can about it and see what happened and come to the conclusion. It ends up being a lot of like us versus them. It's the police versus the citizens. It's the Colombians versus the foreigners. And it's a foreigner, so therefore he's a bad person, you know, that kind of shit. Even though he could speak Spanish too. Like that should be like a huge diffuser, you know? But I don't know. Anyway, I learned a lot about how the system here works and how fucking bullshit it is. You don't when you come to Colombia, you know you're not coming here for the fucking system. I can tell you that. You're not looking for a systemic upgrade compared to the United States. When you come here, you look for cheap living, cheap food. The food's like outrageously cheap. My pineapples, I'm eating pineapples every day because they're $2 fucking. I don't give a fuck. The bananas here suck, which is kind of hilarious, but the pineapples are like A grade, so I'm eating a pineapple every day for $2. Anyway, all this is to say, use caution and judgment in your life, and thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you guys in the next one.